Okay, I think I'd like to call the meeting to order. Russ, will you please take attendance?
Joe Becker. Present. Peter Blissenbach.
Here.
Scott Gergen.
Here.
Lisa Hedin.
Here.
Dave Pemble.
Here.
Russ Roloff. Here. Kelsey Waits. Superintendent Collins.
Here.
All right, excellent. I'd like a motion and a second, please, to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or additions? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'd like a motion to approve the minutes of the November 13th, 2019 special board meeting and the November 20th regular board meeting and the November 25th special board meeting. I'd like motions and seconds for those, please.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. So the November 13th and 25th, those were meetings that we had for the interim superintendent process, for those that are maybe not keeping track. Any questions, comments? Call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'd like a motion to approve the bills payable, please.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the bills payable?
Pay the bill.
Pay the bills. Thank you.
Pay the bills.
Call for a vote at this time. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Do we want to have them step in? We're going to move into our good news section, which we're going to.
Man, I moved in chairs and it wasn't even a little bit enough.
Fantastic. This is the good news section where we're going to be recognizing our employees of the semester.
First up, alphabetically, Beth Dannenberg.
Yeah, you can stand over there, or find a chair, take one of those over there.
I will move out of the way so that
You are less
I am,
prominent.
yes.
Right up front, so you're on TV.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is what some of our staff had to say about you. Beth is one of the secretaries at McCullough Elementary. She goes above and beyond her role of secretary. She uses her creativity to make our building visually more appealing. She helps with student behaviors, which sometimes means a student is with her for maybe the whole day.
Maybe.
She even brings treats for 130 people. I did not know that. Wow. She does all these things while doing an outstanding job of keeping our school office welcoming and organized. Beth goes out of her way to help boost morale for our staff members, but is truly invested in the well-being of everyone. She is generous with her time, her gifts, and her kindness. Congratulations. And if you want to say anything, you can, or introduce your family, you can, or you don't have to do anything. Your choice.
Well, first and foremost, I would say thank you so much to Randall Ficker, our custodian, who really said that I needed to do that. He's like, I'm going to watch this, so you better thank me.
Now he owes you something.
That's
doesn't he?
right. It makes up for all the glitter I use, and he has to clean up.
Yeah, that's right.
It's so fun to work at McCullough. I feel honored every day to come into that building. I get this opportunity to work with kids, which is just the greatest thing in the whole wide world. And so I feel like I'm being thanked for just doing my job. That really doesn't feel very fair because I love it so much. I have amazing staff that I work with that make doing things so much fun. I laugh all day long. I hear a lot of sarcastic comments right back. But I'm so thankful to have this job. I can't say enough good things about working at Hastings Public Schools. And so thank you so much for taking the opportunity to thank somebody for just doing their job.
Well, thank you. Sarah Kleckel.
There you go. Congratulations.
That's what people said about you. As the Assistant Director of Special Services, her commitments to student and staff is unmatched. She spends countless hours connecting, teaching, directing, and guiding staff. There is never a time when Sarah is not asked that she says, "What can I do to support you more?" She's involved and works hands-on with students at every level. She always keeps student needs first and foremost. She's a supporter, a leader, and a motivator. There are not enough words to express all that she does for our students and staff. Congratulations. If you want to all right. Ellie Lundstrom. Is the board member going to give her? Congratulations.
Thank you.
I sent you a congrats card, and it's almost word for word what was said here. In her role as a 6th grade math teacher and department head, she is a shining example of a person who does her job with always a smile on her face. Her laugh and smile are contagious for her students and her colleagues. She teaches subject matter that is often challenging for her students. However, she makes the subject matter meaningful and helps all students to gain understanding of the material. Ellie is a great example of a teacher who truly connects with her students. They love having her and working hard for her. She does her work very well and often goes unnoticed. I strive to have the work ethic and to connect with students and peers the way she does. Congratulations.
Thank you very
If
much.
there's anything you want to share, you can.
Thank you. And it's really like a team effort. So I'm only as good as my team is, and I have a super awesome team that I get to work with, and that makes every day a joy. So
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Chuck Marley.
Thank you very much.
Congrats, Chuck.
Thank you.
A special ed teacher at the high school, Chuck works with what many consider to be a very challenging group of high-need students. However, Chuck does not see his job as challenging. He views this as an opportunity. I don't know who they're accurate on that, but who wrote that? He views it as an opportunity to build connections with students who may have struggled to connect with school or staff before. He is patient, nurturing, flexible, fun, and it's an understatement to say laid back in the classroom. In other words, it takes a lot to rattle this guy, and something I have yet to see. His demeanor allows students to not only engage in the school setting, but also to trust him. He does an incredible job quickly building rapport with our students and builds friendships with his coworkers. His positive attitude, collaborative mentality, and team approach help foster fun, welcoming, and supportive environment here at Hastings High School for students and for staff. Congratulations.
Thank you.
If you want to say something.
That's the one thing that rattles me is speaking in front of people.
You wanted to teach you.
Lucas Werner.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Luke is the computer tech for all 3 of our elementary sites. On any given day, Luke can be found helping a member of the staff troubleshoot issues in their classrooms or with their computer equipment. Whether it is a smart board that malfunctions or some other piece of technology that is on the fritz, he never makes us feel technologically challenged for asking for help, even though sometimes I'm pretty sure we are. He is always patient, kind, and cheerful. He is a pleasure to work with. Congratulations. If you want to say something.
I'll just kind of echo what a lot of people said, and I have really great staff at all 3 sites, and they make it really easy to come in and work hard, so thank you to them.
And the W's, Margaret Westry.
Hi, Margaret.
Margaret is an occupational therapist at our Tilden site. She is a great mentor. She is a team player and will always help a coworker in need if she can. She consistently goes above and beyond to meet the needs of our students in the ECSE programming. She brings so much leadership, knowledge, experience, and joy to her job. She is the ideal coworker because she is extremely caring and will go above and beyond the call of duty for her teammates, her students, and families that she works with. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And if you want to say something.
just also, thanks to my team, I have the best team to work with every day, and it makes the job so much easier, so they're the best.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.
And on behalf of the school board and the community, every one of you have a common theme. You go above and beyond for kids and for your colleagues. And so we hired right when we hired you, so thank you for everything that you do. We know that you don't get rich doing it, so thank you. And thank you for your family supporting you. The family members are here as well, so if you want to stick around for a very exciting truth and taxation and a budget review, you can feel free. It's stimulating, but otherwise, you feel free to exit stage right and have a great holiday with your family and friends. Thank you. And now Jen is going to hop into under the superintendent report, the truth and taxation and the budget review. So which one are you doing first, Jim? The budget? Jen, the budget.
Do we have Jen's mic? I can give her mine.
They only gave me two of them, so.
Yep, no worries. Because it's frustrating for those on the. Yeah, they wouldn't be able to hear you, so you can clip that on wherever. There you go.
Okay, so I'm going to start by reviewing the revised budget. I'm going to kind of just lightly cover it. We'll look at it in two different ways. We'll look at it as part of this budget, and then we'll also look at it in the truth and taxation. So to start with, I would ask that you turn to page 3. This is the summary page that you guys have seen a lot of times. If we look at that yellow line for the unassigned, you'll see that we are, I'll do this too. For 1920, with the revised budget, we are underspending, so our revenues are over our expenditures by about $49,000. When we had done the adopted, it looked like the revenues were going to be over expenditures by $432,000. So there's a change there of about $383,000. So the difference I can explain if we go back to page 2 of your packet. There'll be some additional information there. So if we start with the revenues, a lot of our revenues are tied to pupil units, and we recalc our pupil units each year on October 1 once the students are in the building. So from the adopted to revised, there was a 43 adjusted pupil unit there for a decrease of 43 students. And then from our prior year, there was a decrease of 14. So those relate to an aid revenue adjustment of about $249,000 or $250,000. We also had a tax levy shift adjustment of $24,000. The solar garden payment coming in at $40,000. We'll get that second payment in 1920. And then other miscellaneous revenue for about $16,000. Our special ed aid, there was some new cross-subsidy reduction aid that's in the formula this year. And then also there's some numbers that are adjusted to actuals for the prior year, so that came to about $242,000. So in total, our revenues increased by $43,000 roughly. When we looked at the expenditures, utilities, work comp, property and liability, and unemployment, there was an increase in expenditures there of about $24,000. District-wide operations and programs, a lot of those are our annual contracts that we renew each year for things like Time Clock Plus, our systems that are used district-wide, $32,000. Miscellaneous payroll for athletics and activities, $36,000 increase, and that's based on the new teacher's contract. And then we had a payroll benefit annual budget calc change of about $362,000. So that's made up of a couple things. There's a 6.8 FTE increase in there. Also, all the new hires were updated from estimates to actuals. The teachers, principals, administrators, and supervisors contracts were all settled and updated to actuals. And then the other contracts are all settled amounts. So our total increase in the expenditures were $455,000, which is a net of that $383,000. We also had the actual for 18-19 fund balances reflected in here. So if we look at that unassigned, there was a change there for last year of $955,000, and then the change for this year to the unassigned is the $572,000. So the net of the adopted versus the revised again is that $383,000. So if you look down below, you can see for the last several years what the actual unassigned ending fund balances were, and then what the projected is for 1920. So there's a lot more information in the packet, but I won't go through all of it. If you want to look through it, a lot of it is just showing revenues and expenditures by different, by source or by object, so you can get a better understanding. We'll look at some of that with truth and taxation. There's also some of the capital, LTFM, what we're anticipating spending on projects this year, the staff development, and then the actual for 18-19 is at the back. So that is the budget. And then for truth and taxation, I'll pull that up. So we're required to have an annual meeting for truth and taxation. The requirements are that there's a presentation of the proposed property tax levy, that there's also a presentation of the current year budget, and then that we allow for public comment. So, looking at the tax levy calendar, or the process, so for taxes 2019 payable 2020, and then this will be for our school year 2020-2021. It started back in May, so that's when the legislature set school finance formulas. In July, we had to submit our LTFM project application. In August, the pupil projections and other school data was sent in so that they could do the initial levy run, so that MDE could do the initial levy run. And then also in August, the date and location for the levy hearing was set, which we're doing tonight. And then in September, we received the initial levy limitation from MDE, and we also certified the proposed levy. November, the county mailed out parcel-specific notices to the property owners of their proposed taxes. And then now in December, tonight, we're doing the public hearing on the levy, and then we'll also certify the final tax levy. So except for new voter-approved tax levies, the final levy cannot exceed the proposed levy, which we don't have any new voter-approved for tonight. And then the certification of the levy is a culmination of a 5-month process, which begins in the previous spring. Factors impacting the tax levy. So some of them come from different areas. The first one is legislative decisions. So there can be changes in the tax capacity rate, which determines how much of the tax burden will fall on different types of property. So that did not change for this year. But there's also formulas that are used to determine school district levy limits by category, and those change every year. Issues determined by the district voters, voter-approved building bonds, and also voter-approved referendums. So we have both of those, but we do not have anything new for this year. And then local factors, inflationary pressure on the real estate market, changes in individual assessed market value, possible changes in property classifications and the related tax, and then property improvements that were not previously taxed. So then if we look at the levy for last year and then this year, we're just kind of showing a comparison here. So, You can see, the total is a decrease of 0.13%. It's broken down by category. So state legislation determined amounts. So we've got the general fund that has an increase of about $15,000. The community ed fund has an increase of about $4,000. The next category is provided by local voters. So that's where the referendum levy is, and that's decreasing by roughly $53,000. And that's basically just based on our student numbers going down and then the ratio of the aid and levy changes. The debt redemption levy, so we have voter approved building bonds. That's got a small increase of about $1,400. And then the alternative facility, also an increase of about $9,000. So overall, like I said, we have a decrease, negative 0.13%, which equates to about $23,000. The tax base is increasing, so you can see down there that we went from 40 million to about 42 million, which is a 6.72% increase. And then also the referendum market value is increasing, and that's at about a 7.21% increase. So all of those numbers are used in the formulas in different ways, so it's good that it's increasing. The next page, this is just an explanation of the levy changes. So there's a lot of different categories in the levy, and they're all based on estimates that are done like 2 years out. So you're always going to see some adjustments here. The first one is the equity revenue. There's a decrease in that of about $18,000. And again, there's 3 formulas that go into that, and 2 of those are adjusted based on your pupil units. Transition revenue, there's a $500 decrease, and that's based on prior year adjustments. Reemployment, there's an increase of about $9,800, and that's just based on our actual expenses compared to what the estimates were at the time. The referendum decrease of $46,000, again, prior year adjustments, inflation, the estimating of students, and the property value ratio all those factor into that. The career and technical, $17 decrease, and that's just a prior year adjustment. Safe Schools levy, $2,613 decrease, again, prior year adjustment. And in that Safe Schools levy, we also have some of District 917 in there. Achievement and integration, increase of $9,700 and a prior year adjustment. Abatements, $25,000 increase. Operating capital was a decrease of about $6,000. The long-term facility maintenance, again, a decrease of about $22,000 for prior year adjustments. And then the lease levy, that has a $13,000 increase. And again, there's some District 917 leases in there that come in after the year. So the total changes for the general fund were a decrease of $37,000. The next page will show community ed. There was an increase of about $3,900 related to abatements, and debt service has an increase of about $10,500, and that's again abatements and the debt excess. So our total change is that $22,830, and then we just have to break it out by voter approved and other. So the voter approved is a decrease of $51,000, and the other is an increase of $58,000. From there, I just have a quick overview of the budget. So this is the budget as a whole for the district. This is all funds, so it's a little different than what we looked at as part of the budget review. The only funds that are not included in this are the trust fund and the self-funded insurance, so the health and dental. And that's basically just because they would skew some of the results if they were included in there. So overall, our revenues are $67,385,000, and expenditures are $81,017,776. And that will match back to the budget if you exclude those 3 funds. And then where do our revenues come from? So state aid, we get about $41 million, and that's about 61% of all of our revenues. The levy, or the money from the taxpayers, is about 26%, or 17 million. The next highest one is the miscellaneous local, so that's the fees that we collect, like lunch fees, community ed fees, participation fees. That's about 9%, and then federal comes in at about 3%. And then what do our expenditures pay for, or what do we spend our money on? So that, again, this includes all funds. Salaries and benefits, about 46 million, which comes out to be 57% of our budget, along with purchase services, which a lot of times is staffing. So those two kind of get combined, but purchase services is another 14%. So in total, that's about 71% of our budget. Debt service is 3 million, and that's about 4% of our budget. The equipment, books, and buildings, 14 million, about 18% of our budget. Supplies, 4 million, 5% of our budget, and then just a little bit of miscellaneous. So again, the largest percentage of our budget is spent on staffing. And then we just look at it one more way. So this is by program, and I won't read through each one of these, but you can see each program has its corresponding dollar amount, and then those are just translated into percentages in the graph. So our highest ones are elementary and secondary regular ed, special ed, sites and buildings, and that's just because we have a lot of expenses right now related to the projects going on.
Yeah, because that's an uncommon representation because sites is so high.
Yep. And then,
Which is why our overall budget is sitting at 81
Right.
Million, I know,
rather
I'm
Right.
than
trying not
60
to stress
million.
out about that, it's so dramatically larger.
Which
It's
is
okay.
also why
You know,
we
It's
looked
okay.
like it was overspent by
Yeah.
about
Right.
$21 million, so.
Yeah.
so at this point, we can open up for any public comment or questions. And all of this is posted on the district's website, so the district's website is listed here, but it will just take you to the finance. So under departments and services, finance, under property taxes, all the truth and taxation information is there. And then under budgets, all the budget information is there.
Thank you.
Great job, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I think every time that we see those numbers of what our local community contributes to our budget, it requires a big thank you to our community for their generosity, because they don't have to vote yes. So we do appreciate it, and you see how critical it is to our operations.
Also, as you get hooked up, I'll slide into the superintendent's report. I'll just start out with the transition of the interim superintendent. Jeff was here last week for an entire day. He met with me. He was able to sit in on the self-funded health insurance committee. He was able to sit in on the facility committee with Wold here, and we were talking about not only our middle school project, but other projects as well. Then on Monday, I set up meetings where he met with basically the top leaders, whether it be principals, whether it be Deanna, whether it be Jen, whether it be Jen Reichel. So he's coming tomorrow, same type of thing. I wanted him to get the face-to-face meeting rather than the big group meeting where you say hi and you don't really get to meet people. We're gonna go out and meet Terry Johnson because it might snow in December and January, so he needs to know who he's gonna be talking to at 3 o'clock in the morning. And then again tomorrow for him is just boom, 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 administrator after administrator. He was also able on Monday to walk the middle school site with Joe Haas and learn about those projects. I also was able to drive him out by the football field or the athletic complex we're going to put in the parking lot. I also drove him down by Todd Field where we're still working with MnDOT on a lease and some property there. And then to Tilden where the roof project's going to be starting here as well. And so then tomorrow I'll check with him next week what his schedule is and see what he thinks about next week for, one more meeting. And I think then after that, so like tomorrow he's meeting Mike Johnson, so then in January he'll go meet the rest of the principals at the high school, et cetera, and start to get in the flow of things. And, one of the things that the facility committee he rolled into, and who was all there that day? Joe, were you there? Who was on the facility that day with us with Wold? Oh, no. Okay. It was Jen and I then. Well, the facility committee wasn't there. It was a facility update with Wold. And so the update is the middle school, as we heard from when we last met with Wold, the middle school is very tight. It's probably about 20,000 over, budget right now, with 87% of the middle school being completed. So that's pretty good when you think about 87% completed with the really high cost items in there. We're still running into, as you'll see, some of the change orders, but as you know, when you're doing a $20-some million project, you're going to have those as change orders. They also talked about the parking lot. There's a planning meeting tomorrow. I think Trent Hansen will be there, Mike Johnson will be there. But from that point forward, it's really Trent, because it's really impacting the athletic complex. Cam Peterson will be there, et cetera. And then really just meeting with Kerry Gore on the timing of the roofing of when can roofers be there, et cetera, because we're using that facility as well. So he was able to sit in on that and talk about, we updated him on the privacy bathrooms, and so he was able to see those firsthand. He asked Jen some questions about our investment planning of how we're investing the money that we do have, et cetera. So he's up to speed now on that. He also then on that same day sat in with the self-funded health insurance. Scott was there, Lisa was there, Jen and I were there. And I guess the update on that, and you guys can hop in too, is that, our health insurance is continuing to increase, like it is in the rest of America. When we first went into self-funded insurance, we over-invested in it because we knew what our costs were, so we didn't want to get burnt. And so we've been building up a savings account, but our costs have continued to go up. And so we had some serious discussion on, usually we set the rate in April, May. And at one point, we thought it was going to be 0% again, or roughly around there, and I don't know if it's going to be that way or not. The committee is made up of teachers, secretaries, board members, administrators, business office staff, so it's a committee of about 11, 12. Definitely, that committee gives guidance to the board on what the rate should be, and it's going to get into that discussion of when you have about 4 million plus a little change, and you should have around 2.6, you ride it through for a year, or do you start increasing yourself a little bit so you don't have to take a big percentage the following year? And so I don't know if Lisa and Scott want to share much more than that.
Just one thing that I took away from the meeting that I found very, very interesting was, much like we do with our 5-year forecast for our district budget, we were doing 5-year projections with the healthcare budget, and taking a 0% on a trend increasing of 7%. So taking a 0% increase in what the district and our employees would contribute to healthcare, combined with healthcare going up 7% annually, means that in about 3 years, we would be in a position where we would be below that recommended $2.6 million balance, and we would be taking a pretty significant double-digit increase in healthcare. So we don't want that. We want it to be smooth. Everybody would rather have a 2 or 3% increase than all of a sudden, to get hit with something in the, 10 plus, 15 plus range. So that was one that our consulting firm was helping us with. So.
Yeah, I definitely felt that 5-year projection was the most valuable part of our time together, because to this point, it's really been about, did we get off on the right foot? Are we making the right investments? Can we get to a sound base? And this feels to me like that next evolutionary discussion, that maturity discussion that says, okay, we consciously chose very conservative contributions to the fund to establish a sound base. And as our costs have continued to sneak up to that, now we have to start having that mature conversation about, that we also have in here around our 5-year budget projections that says, how do we balance dipping into our reserve versus increasing our revenue? And I think it was just the first time we had that next step of maturity conversation.
Yeah.
I thought it was really valuable.
Yeah, because up until this point, it's been about build. Let's build that
Yeah.
fund balance. We have to make sure we're protected.
Yeah, and understanding the
Yeah.
cycle and learning about, some of the eachas, and this was really
Mhm.
that next thing.
And I'd say the other thing too is the firm that we've hired to consult with, they're good. They're really good. And another piece of information that they brought to us that we hadn't looked at before was, so they're able to go in and look at more information than the rest of us and do the analytics on it. And so we have 3 plans, triple option or triple gold. Triple option, I always used to call it triple gold. There's 3 people on that. It's the most expensive plan, and it doesn't give any better coverage than our other ones. They're able to show us what those, we don't know who they are, but we're able to see what those 3 individuals then are costing the plan. 90 people are on comp basic, and we can see what they're costing the plan, and the other 400 and whatever are on the VEBA plan. The VEBA, and so we were able to have some good discussion too about at what point do we as a district say we're offering VEBA only. And they gave the information that research has shown that if you offer only one plan, you get better rates, you can communicate better, you get better buy-in from your staff. And so we're now having a discussion, is that a takeaway if I go up to Lisa and say, you can't have comp basic anymore, but you can have VEBA, when VEBA covers her 100%? How is that a takeaway? So those are discussions that the group has to have if we're going to continue to fine tune and become more efficient on our health insurance, which is one of our largest expenditures.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tim, because it's not just, should we increase the rates? It is a question about can we restructure plans, both for a cost savings and to provide the best package, most balanced package to employees.
Then it's not on here, but when I was meeting with Jeff, what I've been doing is I've been, over the last 4 weeks, because I've been here 17 years, I've been keeping a historical things that are unique to Hastings, things that in the next 6 months should be his priority, and then in the next year to year and a half, what I would have said should be a priority, and take it or leave it. It is what it is. I think Scott said, well, you should share some of that, Tim. I also plan on giving a copy of that document to all board members, the new incoming board members as well, just as this is my perspective, and I do have the most history. So I'm not going to go into everything, and I'm fine tuning it, but when I'm done with it, I'll electronically send it out to everyone. But here are some of the, so it kind of goes in order of some of the things, policy committees that we've been working on recently. Then it gets into unique things about the Hastings School District, how we're unique from other school districts in the suburban, and then some things over the short term. And so I'll go through them quite quickly. And I apologize because I was giving this document and I decided not to do a PowerPoint presentation because I'll be giving it to everybody. Our policy committee, which was Kelsey, Peter, and I, we had a discussion about Facebook. I believe the policy committee will have to touch base with this again in January. Peter's on the committee and he's leaving. And for us to create something, we decided don't create anything because Russ wasn't able to be there. And Russ is leaving too. So we talked about it. Peter and I gave our insight to it. So part of the discussion is, what is the purpose of Facebook? Should it be a two-way communication or do we just push it out? So do we want to allow comments on our Facebook or not? What is the purpose? Or do we just push out that here's the football team, here's the choir, here's blah, blah, blah. what do we want to do? So in the end, we had a good discussion on it. We left those thoughts with Kelsey, and that'll be left with Jeff and the board in the future. At our last board meeting, Scott had asked that the policy committee talk and discuss, are there policies out there, are there code of ethics, asking employees to cooperate with a criminal investigation. I had researched a lot of that, the code of ethics, the MSBA, et cetera. Again, we talked about it. We did come up with our thoughts, but again, two of our thoughts aren't going to matter because we're moving on. So we believe at the next meeting, Kelsey will give you a recap of what our thoughts were. So Kelsey will share what we discussed at that policy committee, either at a work session or a board meeting with all of us. And we all ended up on the same page. Peter and I and Kelsey, after we talked it through, we're all on the same page with it. We've met with 3 of the negotiating groups. Deanna and I have met with 3, maybe 4 now. We've met with the Teamsters. The Teamsters are either bringing it to a vote, I don't know, what day is it, today or tomorrow? They're bringing it to a vote. So I've tried to meet with as many of the groups. It's been tough for some of them to get organized, which we usually don't negotiate this early. So that's fine. I'm kicking myself because it's gone so much quicker with Deanna sitting in. Other years I've met on my own typically, and because Deanna and Jen interpret the contract daily and I don't, they know the ins and outs and we can talk about it a lot quicker, and rather than me saying, well, I'm gonna wait till the next meeting, that's definitely been a help. So anyway, some of them are moving forward. Some of them will be in January. Either way, Deanna and Jen have been here a long time to talk about those contracts as well. So far, the groups are very appreciative that the board is offering 2.5 and 2.5, and that the board is eliminating steps and scrunching the schedule. There's not been much discussion on that at all. So the group so far have thanked the board for their recognition on that. I told them that I believe the board and the new board members will honor my word on this, that we're having the market study done right now, and let's say the Teamsters agree to a contract, and they vote on it unanimously. And then the market study comes back in January and shows that maintenance staff at other school districts usually make $8 an hour more than what we're paying. That the board will reopen that contract and specifically talk about that if there's a major.
Well, I think that would be the fair thing to do because we asked you to open these negotiations, as you mentioned, much earlier than we normally would, so that we had that continuity with these groups and we weren't relying on our interim superintendent to, that's the time frame that this would normally happen.
Right. And so far, to be honest, the firm that's doing the market study, Jen chatted with that firm and they're getting very slow responses from schools. So where we thought that we'd have more of it done here in December, it's going to take till maybe the middle of January. But that firm, their job is to hunt them down and get the market study. So anyway, that's what I've been sharing with everybody, is that the board has said if there is a huge spread, of course the huge spread is always in the eye of the beholder of what that is, that they would get reopened up. And for the Teamsters to take the word and take it to a vote, that's something. That's something for them to say, okay, well, we're going to keep moving forward. We get this. Some things that I share with that Jeff and I would hope somebody would share with the next superintendent. These are things that are a little bit, different in our district than maybe some other suburban school districts. We have never adopted a one-to-one initiative with technology. I'm not saying that's good or bad, but we don't have where every student's going to have a Chromebook or a computer, but we're pretty close. We're pretty close at our high school and our middle school. We have a lot of technology. We don't have a library media specialist at our elementary level. That's different. We do have a elementary tech integrationist. That's different. We do have QComp. We do not have QComp, but we've applied. We have an OASIS program at the middle school. There aren't many that have that program. I do think that the OASIS needs to be looked at of whether or not targeted services is is a reality of how it's being used. I think that's something that Steve and Jen are gonna look at. How does it get funded? We have a 1.5-tier bus system. And what that means is that our buses come in from the far edges, bring everybody into the middle school, high school, and Pinecrest, and then go back out only halfway to pick up the remaining elementary students, and they go to JFK and McCullough. That's different. So on some of our buses, we have high school, middle school, elementary students. On the next rotation, we have only elementary. And if we have to close school early, that's a huge plus that that second tier can get out and back. So that's where we're unique. We have a 6-period day at the middle school, 7-period day at the high school. I'd say that's 50-50 across the metro. All of our principals are ALICE trained and certified. That's very unique. Most schools don't have that. And we have plans for continuing that training now that Mindy has come on, et cetera, and then getting recertified. The school district can have evening activities even after school has been closed. That's very unusual. Most schools say that if it's closed due to snow, no evening activities. And I can tell you that 80% of the time we've had evening activities because we've cleared the roads by then, we've cleared the parking lots by then. Even on Wednesday, we still had practices in the afternoon for our varsity and JV right before Thanksgiving. And so it'd be easier for the superintendent if the board just said no evening activities if school's closed. But I think between myself, Mike Johnson, and Trent, we've always been able to come up with what's safe for kids. And we have security measures in our school district way beyond most school districts. They come to us to check out our electronic door system. They come to us to check out our surveillance cameras, our alert system at the high school, our alert system at the middle school. So we are unique in that way. Over the next 6 months, I think a solar garden update needs to be brought to the board in January. I do think that the school board should meet with principals in March for negotiations and get that rolling rather than waiting till May or June, and then finish up other. So this is kind of my list for Jeff. And then finish up other negotiations. Spend time on working to help mold the new school board to be an effective school board. There's going to be 5 members with 2 years or less of experience, so that's one of my recommendations to him. E-learning is going to have some wrinkles, just accept it. Doesn't matter how much we talk about it, doesn't matter how much we do it. When it happens, there's going to be complaints, so that's just part of growing with it. What to do with the $3 to $4 million from the bond, that's definitely a high priority for him. To get the board collectively already in February at a meeting, at a work session. My belief, if I were to weigh in, I would weigh in that I believe that of that $3 to $4 million, 4 privacy bathrooms at the high school, 2 privacy bathrooms at the middle school. I think we should set aside another $250,000 for technology to make sure that we have the infrastructure and technology that is going to be there. That was part of the bond. Roofs, I think that'd be the next focus, all within that $3 to $4 million. And then I think 1 security entrance at the high school site, and I would use the Safe School levy money that was given this year for that. But then that means that during the day there'd be 1 site open. I think the board needs to move forward with hiring the 2 custodial positions that when we met and we did the hiring of our lead and we did our analysis, that there'd be 2 more positions because we saw that we were 2 to 3 short compared to other schools our size. Solutions room at the elementary sites in January should be a pilot. Scott just heard about this today. For the last 3 years, we've heard about behavior issues, discipline issues across the district. We've met several occasions. It was one of the main focuses. And I keep saying that hiring more people isn't necessary unless you give them training. Students are, if Joe Becker doesn't know how to approach a kid, he's going to escalate that student. So just hiring Joe Becker and saying, here's 2 more kids, what good is that going to do? We need to expand on the training that we have had and go more in depth on that. That's where we're looking to hire our own behavior analysis rather than consulting out, and then that person's job would be to train people. Train PSAs when they get hired, train cooks when they get hired, train teachers, and continue the ball rolling. And then the gentleman who came in and did the training, he shared that at your elementary sites, you should have a solution room. Not a timeout room, but a room where that student can go de-escalate with one person who's the same person all the time. What happens at our elementary sites is you have one administrator and one social worker. So if Matt Esterby is meeting with me and the social worker is sick for the day, where does that 7-year-old go when he's dropping the F-bomb? And they need to get that consistency. He said you need to hire somebody who's trained in the Get 'em 5, and they keep seeing that person. And I just said to the group today, we met for an hour and 15 minutes with teacher representatives, principals, et cetera. I say we got to give it a pilot shot and see where it goes. So we've been trying to hire to backfill for some of the PSAs that would go into that solution room. It can be for special ed students or regular ed students. It's being paid for general fund money, so the core of it should be the student who's maybe going to be on an IEP but hasn't been tested yet. A lot of our behavior problems come at the elementary level as students are still developing, they're learning social norms, they're getting some of their meds regulated. Our real tough kids, when they hit 7th, 8th grade, they go into a deeper mental health program over at 917. So we usually don't have these behavioral discussions in 8th grade or the high school. It's usually, I mean, there's behavior problems at the high school too, I'm not saying it's perfect. But you hear a lot about the situations in the elementary as we're trying to roll with them. So I told Jeff that a solutions room in that discussion, the principals today outlined their plan to the teachers. It was well received.
I think it was.
The teachers just asked some good questions about, do I call the principal first? Do I call this person first, et cetera? How do we work it? And we had discussion today at our district-wide discipline. Where is the line where you draw a line where a kid has shoved somebody, a teacher, or a student, and we know that they might have problems, but they still shove somebody. Or where they're dropping the F-bomb repeatedly, and we know that it's part of their behavior problem, but at what point do you get them out of the class? I mean, what point do you? So we had good discussion on that, and there is no right answer, but we heard the administrators discuss it, we heard the teachers discuss it, so again, I think I said I don't know if it's fair to judge a program from January till June, but I believe that we have to try something, and if it doesn't work, at least we can say we tried it. So whoever sits on that task force, again, you're going to continue to hear discussion about that. And they're probably going to start at all 3 sites differently because we have JFK lined up, but we don't have back staff hired to backfill at McCullough and Pinecrest yet. So,
Just one other thing, because I was in the discussion, so, because I hadn't heard about this yet, this either. So the solutions room and the staff that will be there, it's not just going to be a reactive type of situation. Certainly they're there for that purpose, but they'll also be able to be proactive in going out to these classrooms because they're aware of the kiddos that maybe have this repeated behavior. So they can go and embed themselves in the classroom and observe this behavior firsthand, and maybe that will give them a better chance to work with that teacher to implement some strategies to try to head some of this off. So when they're not reacting to something, they're not just going to be sitting there. They're going to be out, doing proactive things with the staff. So.
and the person who came in the training and talked with the elementary principals, and I get it, he said that you have more consistency at your high school and middle school because you have 3 principals, you have 3 counselors, you have other staff, you have the equity coordinator, other people that you can rely on at your elementary. You've really got the principal and the social worker, and if one of them is sick or dealing with another student, you just don't have enough bodies to go around. So we'll see where it goes, but that's something that I left for Jeff as well. And then follow up on the MnDOT lease of land for Todd Field. And in fact, today I got an email. I emailed her from MnDOT and I carbon copied Jeff on it so that they knew there was going to be a transition of soups. And she responded back to both of us today saying that she did send I wasn't happy with the lease at all. And I said, my jaw was
Lovely
broke from hitting the
understatement.
table. And that how can we lease a piece of property for $1 a year for 50 years and all of a sudden we're being charged more than that. And if we do lease it, I want the money leased to buy down the road, which they said they would sell to us. So she said, Tim, I sent it up the chain. They just haven't gotten back to me yet. And I said, that's fine, I get it. But Jeff is probably gonna have to follow up on that. And then of course, graduation at Todd Field. I told Jeff he's gonna need to follow up on that. I think the solution for Todd Field for graduation and commencement, of course, is some plywood for the platform area, and then buying some chairs that have the folding chairs with the curved bottom. And then, like Spring Lake Park said, they sit there and watch and no spiked heels. It's tennis shoes on the field. So I think that's what we're learning from other districts. It can be done with those types of chairs, so that he needs to follow up on that, because before you know it, graduation will be here. Beyond July 1st, 2020, the joint maintenance facility right down here is going to be paid for in about 2021. What does the school district want to do with that? We definitely have the right to stay in that marriage if we want, in that partnership. And of course, as board members know, when a building gets to be 20 years old, and the city of Hastings knows this too, that's right at the stage where you're getting into roof, HVAC, sealing the outside even though it's concrete. And then that impacts, do we build our own storage shed? How big do we build our own storage shed? So that's coming up right away. Even if we stay in that partnership, I believe that we do need to build some level of storage at our middle school site. For two reasons: at our middle school site, the location's good and we can fence in part of it. Up at our high school site where we have our garages and some storage, it's not fenced in, it's not protected out there. I think the next superintendent has to spend some time looking at ECFE, preschool ECSE, as our preschool and ECFE program, it's expanding. Technology, I really like the 3-year plan approach that we started 3 years ago. It'll be in the 3rd year. It's really helped keep us focused. That superintendent will have to now start the next phase of the technology plan. 100%, I've said it repeatedly, I hope people remember it in 2023, this district needs a technology levy in 2023. We'll have enough money from the bond and money that we've taken out of our general fund to keep our infrastructure going. But beyond that, after 2023, to keep the replacement cycle going, the community is going to have to support that. That's my opinion. I think the district needs to look at a plan allowing Chromebooks to go home with students on a daily basis. We're at a point now when technology first started with laptops, they were $1,200. Chromebooks are down to $200. Our textbooks cost as much as Chromebooks. And what we're finding out in our initial surveys is that students, most of them do have the Wi-Fi at home, but their families don't have enough devices. And so I'm at the point now that if we allow a $200 textbook to go home and don't get some of them back, so what if we don't get a Chromebook back? To me, it's now at that price point where 5 years ago it wasn't there. And we can block out sites that they go. We can block all that out. They'll figure out how to get there anyway, but we'll try blocking it out. School district vans. At one time, when I came here, I brought the concept where we can, if they're used for special ed, eventually special ed dollars help pay for the van over 5 years. So we got into school district vans, which we're using. And I don't think we really need that many more vans, but now we should start replacing them a little bit. Well, about 2 years ago when we were, they put in the cap for several years ago, now special ed wasn't paying for them anymore. So Jen is going to be watching it, and I believe that for 2021 we might be able to replace a van or two now that the cap's been lifted, and then you get the revenue back. Basically the van gets paid for over 5 years, and we need to get on that, the district should get on that replacement cycle. Spending dollars on summer help is a great return on the investment. Even if you're starting to go down in your budget, hiring summer help to keep up with the maintenance is a great return. The district continuing to spend money on mowers, snowplows, trucks, and sweepers has been a huge payback for us. Doing our own mowing with larger mowers, doing our own snow removal has saved this district hundreds of thousands of dollars. I believe the board should get on their calendar an annual update on solar gardens to make sure that they're following through with their promise. We're still watching that. Whether that be July or whatever, put it on the calendar. And lighting is going to keep improving. Technology is going to keep improving lighting, and we should constantly look at retrofitting. Then on contracts, health insurance. Over the years, we've tried to do this. We haven't gotten there, but the district needs to get a dollar amount in the contract for health insurance. We've looked at contract after contract. They have it in as a dollar amount and not a percentage. And if it shoots up 13% some year, and the district doesn't have a dollar amount in there, it's going to cost the district big time. Retire health insurance, again, if you look at other contracts in the area, they don't have retire health insurance in there. I still think that that's a focus, not as big a focus as I felt 5 years ago, because people are working longer. So where most people were reaching rule of 90 at age 56 and retiring, most are waiting now till 61 or 62, but it's still something the district has to look to protect. Of course, you know my thoughts when you negotiate total package. For me to hear that another district gave 3% here or 4% here, that means nothing to me. What is the total package for that person? That continues to need to be the focus. This year, whenever I've hired administrators, not principals, but whenever I've hired administrators, I've told them all that they're coming in lower, and after so many years, I'll move them, after they prove themselves. So user board followed up on that this year. Jen Reichel's been here 5 years. I started her, well, we know it, it's 10 to 12,000 less than what other teaching and learning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for 4 years, she was 10 grand every year below what other teaching and learning, and you followed through with my promise and now moved her up to the average. Carrie Gore, same thing. She comes here, not a lot of experience. I start her low. After they prove herself, use the board, follow. So there's one person left now in the group that I've hired. It's Jen. We hired her. We started her low. I sure hope that board members then follow through with her like we have followed through with everybody else 2 to 3 years, after she's got 2 to 3 years of experience. And then the self-funded health insurance. I just really believe that the committee as a whole, and not just board members, so anybody who's on the committee watching, you hire an expert. None of us are, well, you're pretty close to it. 'Cause I will admit, you're pretty close to it, but, because that was your background at one time, right? Yeah. We hire those experts, we pay them, and whatever advice they give us, we should follow it. Because it's so above our level. I think everybody at that table, teachers, secretaries, everybody know that those two are good.
Well, they're good, and they're dealing with so many different districts that are doing the same thing as us, so they bring that knowledge to the table as well, because any little bump that we hit, they've probably seen before. And they've probably seen, well, this district did this and it worked out well, this district did this, it didn't work out so well. So,
and I made that statement when, at my last self-funded health insurance meeting, I made that statement there that I don't know why we're not listening to those two. I think those of us who have financials investors, we typically try to listen to them. When we go to the doctor, we typically try to listen to them on what we should do. Those people know what they're doing, and that is a big part of our budget, and it's only going to get bigger. So,
and I think we have listened to them thus far.
Yeah.
But I think we need to continue to listen to them, and I think they're also bringing a lot more of their analytics to the table than we received 2 years ago, for instance. 2 years ago, we never delved into the level of rebates, the level of, hey, you just had a high claimant, and based on the diagnoses, which we don't see, but they can say, well, based on that diagnosis, analytics say, here's what the rest of the spend is going to be over the next 2 to 3 years. That really helps guide us.
And I know it's very tough to go away from what you have because there's a comfort level there, and I said this at that meeting too. I don't care if you're the superintendent, I don't care if you're the principal, I don't care if you're a teacher, whoever you are. You should be paying some out of your own pocket for health insurance, or you don't have any skin in the game. And we're not there yet. And if you have skin in the game, you will ask that doctor for a generic drug. You will find out, oh, is that knee surgery going to be $10,000? I mean, and I know that we don't like to hear that because there's a comfort level when it totally gets paid for, but it's tough to change behavior patterns if you don't have some skin in the game. And I think that's the next work for that committee and the board members who serve on that committee, to continue to have that talk and not back down. So anyway, I had a lot more in the document, but it was little things, and I just wanted to hit on the highlight, and all of you will get it. So
Thanks for, yeah, I know it's a longer document, but thanks for hitting the highlights. I think it's important for everybody to hear these things. Is that it for the superintendent's report?
yeah, that was long enough.
All
I
right.
bored myself.
Okay, let's move into our action items here. So action item 1, I'd like a motion to approve the 2019 payable 2020 levy for the amount of $17,739,953.28.
Motion. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Call for a vote at this time. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 2, I'd like a motion and a second, please, to approve the 2019-2020 revised budget.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Just thank you, Jen. Excellent job.
Yeah.
Call for a vote at this time. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, item number 3, I'd like a motion and a second to approve. We have 3 change orders pending. So change order number 1 is at the Hastings High School chiller replacements and boiler stack extension. That's the project. It's in the amount of $5,051.31. That's an addition. Number 2 is the project is the Hastings Schools district-wide camera project, and that is in the amount of $15,547.28. That's an addition. And the third item, which is actually listed as change order number 8, it ties back to what you have in your Dropbox, is the Hastings Middle School improvements is the project, and it's in the amount of $119,742, and that is an addition. If I could get a motion in a second, then we'll open it up for discussion.
Motion.
Second?
Thank you.
The Brothers Fire and Security, it's some additional network, and then it's some additional outdoor cameras. The middle school is a whole long list of little 8,000 additions. I'm not going to go into all of them, but just to give you an example, down in what I call the dungeon in the middle school where water's always been draining in there, they had a great plan to put a sump pump in there, and then when they dug down, it was too close to the footing, so then they had to move the sump pump over and drain elsewhere. So that's just one example. Again, some of it is I can't even pronounce it, but the plenum rated cabling again up above. But again, this was part of what we went through with CAM on that day in Wold, and I'm recommending approval for all of them.
Yeah, and I just want to make the same point that Scott made the last time we looked at change orders, which is if you look at the detail of the change order, yep, it is. It's an ad. It's a cumulative ad. But there are some voided items, there's some deduct items, and there's some no-cost modifications too. So it's a cumulative set of changes from the original contract.
And again, it's a little bit too early to project, but with our investments and the interest we have been able to make, interest has been better than what we anticipated 3 years ago. And with our savings on some of the other projects, we're still going to look to be $3.5 to $4 million under budget overall.
And I know the MSBA news came out, and I think it was posted elsewhere as well, where you have districts with $100 million bonds, and now their costs next year are going up 30%. So just another thank you to our staff for being as flexible as they were, because when people say, well, why aren't we just doing this during the summer at the middle school? I said, well, we have about 3 million reasons,
Yeah.
because and I explained to them the reason that we're doing it this way is the continuity with our contractors. It's, to keep them employed year round. It saves time that they don't have to stop and button everything up and then come back and restart. There's not that lag. They have predictable costs, they have predictable employment, and we're able to, get them secured, because most districts are clamoring for these same employees during the summertime. Not so much in the wintertime. So that's a huge savings. But it just, again, reinforces why we did it the way we did it. Because a 30% hit on our bond would have really hurt.
Yeah.
And that would mean that we wouldn't be doing a lot of the projects that we wanted to. So, any other discussion on the change orders? Okay, at this time I'd like to call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 4, a motion to approve the second reading of the following policies, and this is the crowdfunding / employee fundraising for school purposes policy.
Peter, I, and Kelsey did review it again. It was put on in a hurry at our last meeting because we wanted to get going with our pilot projects where principals can approve a project and then money can get donated to an organization, so we never receive the money and then the item gets sent to us. And we looked at the policy again, pretty straightforward. It did reference within the policy that you should see policy 515. We do have policy 515, and that ties back to data privacy protection of students, et cetera. So Peter, I, and Kelsey are recommending for the second reading.
That aligns with everything we've talked about over the last 6 months, where we've gotten feedback from the board previously, but I think everybody has the same interest in having some of that centralized in the future.
Yep. Okay, on this item, I have not received a motion or a second yet, so I need those, please.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this? This time I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 5, I'd like a motion and a second, please, to approve a revised employee classification review cycle for pay equity compliance for 2019-2020. And on the next page of the agenda, you'll see all of the various groups, and you'll see there are 6 that are highlighted. That's Secretary 1, Secretary 2, Secretary 3, Student Assistant, Instructional Assistant, and our Certified Occupational Therapy Assistant. So those are the ones that we are asking for a revised review cycle. So just a reminder, we're normally doing them, we divide them into 4 groups, so they are reviewed every 4 years. So this was an off-cycle version. So that's a lot longer, but I still need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this one, or Tim, anything you want to highlight here?
I just want to share that even 3 weeks ago already, Jen was lining up meeting with administrators to train them on pay equity review cycle. As soon as we could get it lined up due to conflicts was next week sometime. Yeah, next Wednesday, so they'll be going through that. In addition to that, yeah, you're right, we're on the cycle. And so we've been getting questions, how long will this take, et cetera. Well, it's tough to tell because if you just do one review, it can get back in 3 to 4 days. But when you're doing multiple reviews, it might be 3 to 4 weeks. And so we've been sharing with people that, we'll go through the system. Another thing that Jen and Deanna are changing is that typically the list that's not yellow would come through in the board meetings. And then we'd look at them in our own mind and see if there are major changes, or administrators if there's major changes, and now we're gonna be emailing directly. So, once this gets approved, as we continue to move forward, those people in those groups will get emailed that if they want it reviewed, they should fill the form out. So that'll be an improvement as well.
All right. Any other discussion on that item? Okay, I have a motion and a second. At this time, I'd like to call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 6, a motion to approve one change in grade. So, and again, in these meetings, we typically, for anything like this, for leaves, for employment, et cetera, we don't typically go through the list of names for the employees. If you're curious, the agenda is online at the Hastings ISD 200 website. So we have one change in grade. I need a motion and a second, please.
Motion?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Again, this goes through that same process as we've restructured the administrative office. The job qualifications are sent out. And in this case, one job duty from one position got given to another, so we sent both positions in. And it came back that one should move from grade 13 to grade 14, and the other person's position stayed the same, so that person's position isn't here. Again, what I like about it is that we in the district aren't determining what the grade is. We're not determining whether or not the review cycle is being impacted by that. We send it in an outside source. And that's where the district was in trouble when they were just doing it themselves back in 2000.
All right. Any other discussion on this item? I have a motion and a second. At this time, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 7, a motion to approve the resignation of 2 folks.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, at this time, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 8, a motion to approve, let's see, we have 5 individuals for leaves. I need a motion and a second, please.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 9, motion to approve the employment of, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Here's where you get nervous.
7.
This is the
That's
same
right,
moment.
because
Right now, you're
Resigned.
technically not employed.
yeah,
by
you're
us.
in limbo.
Not rehired.
So let's negotiate. No. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
We're
Well,
very, very
welcome.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have the hiring of 7 individuals here. I need a motion and a second, please.
So.
Second.
Any discussion? At this time, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Item number 10, other business. So, in your drop boxes, I know that we have talked about this at a previous meeting. The tentative schedule is out in your Dropbox now. So we will not finalize this until our January 8th organizational meeting. It's one of the items that we go through there, but just be taking a look at it so that you can come to the board meeting prepared to discuss in case we need to tweak something. Typically, we don't tweak it if there's just one member that has a conflict, but if for some reason there's 2, 3, whatever, and we can move it, we will. Item number 2 is listed as board communication. So just keeping our eye on the ball a little bit. I'm sure we're all aware that there is a proceeding that is coming up in January, and the board may receive questions about this. So we'd like it to be a more organized response, not a one-by-one. So to that end, we would ask that that communication be managed through the superintendent and through the board chair. The rest of the board will certainly have input to that. The rest of the board will certainly be informed of that. But just to keep the responses unified from the district perspective, if this were to come to pass. Item number 3. Well, before we get to that, I think we should take a moment here to pause. And Tim, I know you're going to hate this,
Yeah, keep moving.
but you've been here for 17 years, and I just personally want to say thank you on behalf of not only the board, but me as a taxpayer, me as a dad in the district. You've done a great job, and you will be missed. I've learned a lot over the last 6 years, and I certainly wish you the best.
Thank you. And I wish the best for Hastings. When you pour 17 years in, you want them to succeed. So it's going to be a great school district for the next superintendent. A lot of places are in place, and the one thing that's true, you said it earlier, Hastings supports education, so
Yep.
it will go well.
Yep.
There's always issues. There always will be.
Absolutely.
So
But-
thank you.
But if they can follow your lead of keeping kids as the center,
Yep, that has been.
that's what we're about.
Thank you.
Kids
So-
at the heart and high levels of integrity.
So
All
there,
right.
I will
There,
keep,
now move on.
I will keep it, I will keep it short.
This is gonna refuse.
Now
All
move
right,
on.
so with that, I also want to take a minute to recognize, we've got 3 board members at the table that won't be joining us beyond this. So thank you, Joe Becker, for your years of service to the board. Thank you, Peter Blissenbach. I know that you joined the board as we had a member that left the board, so you joined us in that manner. And thank you, Russ Roloff, for your years of service as well. I've certainly valued all of your diverse input. You each certainly bring more than a handful of strengths to the board. So, and you will be missed. You were very, very good board members, so thank you very much for your time. And it's a service. Your service to the community and to the schools. So thank you very much. Okay, now we'll get to item number 3, which is our upcoming meetings. So as I mentioned earlier, on January 8th, we will have our organizational meeting and work session. That will be here in this room at 6 p.m. And then on the 22nd is our regular board meeting. Of course, we can only say that that's pending at this time because we have to approve the calendar at our January 8th board meeting. I don't foresee that there will be any issues. I'm caught on my chair here with my wiring. This is not good. Okay, so January 8th, January 22nd are the upcoming meetings.
One thing I would like to remind, I guess, Dave and then Kelsey by camera, we do have a meet and confer.
On the schedule.
On the 7th of January, so.
On the schedule.
We're gonna just go with the existing meet and confer committee, because we won't have had an org meeting yet to figure out who's on committee, so we're just gonna continue for this.
Right. And I see our 3 new board members are with us tonight as well. So the January 8th meeting, we'll be talking about different committees, explaining what they are, trying to get, we may not have all of them filled that night, but at least you'll have an idea of it. And we try to divvy them up as best we can to meet your interests,
And availability.
and availability. Yeah, some of them definitely are
Challenging times.
larger time commitments.
Yeah, that's
The one that I would recommend you filling that night, though, is the facility committee. All 3 members are gone from the facility committee, correct? And, and you really need to get rolling right away with the facility committee in Wold. So I would make sure that you name the 3 that night on that one for sure. Just, you don't have to.
Just thoughts.
Just I toss it out there. Yeah. Go ahead, do what you want, but
You can have a non-existent facility committee if you want.
yeah. But I would get going on that committee because they're going to want to meet before the whole board meets with Wold in February as you really get into it.
I will, I mentioned this.
You did, yep.
I will offer my help if need be
to kind of continue with the project. Seeing we all started this a couple years ago, I wouldn't mind seeing it through. I don't have to be paid or anything, or just on call as needed, so I'm offering that.
Yeah. And not only is that a really generous offer, I think it's very helpful to have some continuity going forward, because it's been a year and a half, 2 years coming, 2 years working on it, and to have all of that knowledge base walking out the door, to have someone offer to come back and say, hey, I'll help out, that would be awesome.
Just let me know.
And we need to talk about 917 as well. I know we've talked about it peripherally in the back a month or two, but, all right. Well, this is a little surreal, but I think this is the end of our meeting for today, unless anybody has anything else. All right, I'd like a motion and a second to adjourn, please.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you.
It is.